him all this, baby. I'm gonna give him all that.
The story of Michael Vick is one of immense talent, but also one of the biggest what-if scenarios that the NFL has ever seen.
It was like having Barry Sanders back there as your quarterback. The most dynamic, athletic quarterback that there ever was.
The dazzling quarterback overcame a troubled childhood to display a skill set that the NFL had never seen before. But controversy caught up to him to derail a career that looked destined for greatness. Which begs the question, just how good was Prime Michael Vick? Michael Vick's childhood was riddled with challenges. He was born in Newport News, Virginia, in a public housing project that frequently exposed its residents to crime and financial hardship.
From people who ever visited or heard about Newport News knew that it was a place where, it's a lot of violence.
His parents worked long hours to keep the family afloat, and Michael even recalled one summer where he heard a gunshot every single night.
The most violent thing I seen, probably was seeing a dead cab driver who had been shot. It was pretty traumatic. As I think I was 11, everybody was outside. It was kind of the panic in the neighborhood, and I just remember a lady saying, "Don't look," and I looked. I had to.
Thankfully though, Vick was blessed with athletic abilities, meaning he could look up to sports as an avenue for staying away from all the trouble. His father, Michael Body, had been teaching him to play quarterback from a young age, and once Vick reached his teenage years, his cousin Aaron Brooks took him under his wing. The pair would play together at the local boys and girls school, and the lessons were of a high level, with Aaron going to play in the NFL. It was at Warwick High School that Vick first showed what he could do.
I was a cheerleader on the cheerleading squad, and they was like, y'all need to come around here. There's this guy, he's like throwing his ball everywhere, and he's just playing so good. We just ran around the corner. I was like, who is it? Who is it? I was like, oh, that's just my brother. I know him. He does this all the time. This is nothing.
As a 3-year starter for the Warwick Raiders, a young Michael Vick threw for 4,846 yards and 43 touchdowns, adding a further 1,048 yards and 18 scores as a rusher. His stunning dual threat ability earned him a reputation for being a one-man highlight reel early in his playing career. In one high school playoff game, he rushed for 6 touchdowns and threw for 3 more. But he wasn't able to do this all alone. He had someone helping him through an impressive high school career, and it was his head coach, Tommy Riemann. He had also helped Vick land a scholarship to Virginia Tech as his college of choice.
Virginia Tech, I had never seen him on TV, never seen him in a bowl game. I felt like what Donovan had built at Syracuse was what Donovan had built. I was saying to myself, this is an opportunity for me to leave a legacy.
One of the reasons that Vick chose to go to Virginia Tech too was because of their commitment in redshirting him as a freshman in order for him to develop more. And needless to say, when his time came as a redshirt freshman, Michael Vick didn't disappoint.
My first college football game, I just remember being so nervous.
He rushed for 3 touchdowns in his debut, needing just over 1 quarter to do so.
Making a stand, scrambling, running with the football, crosses the 50, turning on the Jets. Look at that speed! He's racing all the way into the end zone. Touchdown, Tech! They couldn't catch him.
From that point on, it was over.
He was on the way to a debut for the ages, but a dramatic flip to score his last touchdown gave him an ankle injury that forced him out for the remainder of the game. And now, yes, the injury to start his career was very frustrating, but when he returned to the lineup just a few weeks later, it went on to be the greatest season in Virginia Tech football. Michael Vick was electric, scorching defenders for long touchdown runs, but also sending bullets with his arm. He was a dual threat quarterback like the game of football had never seen before, breezing through holes in the defense and frequently sending himself airborne to collect the necessary yards. He moved with speed and agility that was impossible to comprehend, and it resulted in a perfect 11-0 regular season record for the Hokies. And for someone who could wreck a game with his legs alone, Vick's dual threat prowess was emphasized when he led the NCAA in passing efficiency.
Everything that we did was catered towards what I could do. We didn't throw it as much, but I was efficient. I led the nation in passing efficiency as well.
Touchdown, Tech! Oh, what a throw by Vick.
His 180.4 was a record for a freshman and the 3rd highest all time. He was the new face of college football, winning the ESPY award as the nation's top player, as well as the college football MVP award. He was also third in Heisman voting, which tied him for the best effort by a freshman. Unfortunately though, the season ended with a disappointing BCS national championship game loss to Florida State, but that did little to dent the excitement surrounding Virginia Tech's new quarterback. Michael Vick had given the Hokies their best ever college football season and taken them to the showcase game as a freshman. Now yes, Vick's stats did dip, but that was due to some injuries that he did experience a lot of in his sophomore season. But despite that, the team dominated yet again. But with Vick sidelined for a couple of games, like I said, due to injury before, they suffered their one loss for the season against the Miami Hurricanes. But they did get to celebrate a bowl game win against the Clemson Tigers. That game would be Vick's last for Virginia Tech, so it was only fitting that he was recognized as the game's MVP. Vick decided to forego his final year at university, wrapping up a remarkable 2-year college career that saw him pass for 3,279 rushing yards and 21 touchdowns, also adding 1,216 yards and 17 scores as a rusher. He had completely changed the Virginia Tech program and put them on the map. But not only that, he had changed the way people had viewed the quarterback position. His dazzling skill set completely made up for just 2 years of action at college, making him an easy #1 overall pick for the Atlanta Falcons in the 2001 NFL Draft. And how when you run a 4.3 40 as a quarterback, which is still one of the fastest, if not the fastest as a quarterback, it's pretty good reason to take him at #1. He was second among all prospects in his draft class, so people knew what to expect from him on the football field. He was a prospect that fascinated the entire NFL community, and despite only appearing in 8 games as a rookie, fans did get to see some of the Michael Vick magic. And at the end of the year, he ended up starting the last 2 games, where he passed for over 170 yards and rushed for 45 yards in each. His elusiveness and bullet arm were on full display, foreshadowing a thrilling few years for the Atlanta Falcons. But his full potential was finally unleashed as a sophomore in 2002.
Second offensive series. On the left-hander, Wilson tucks and runs. Watch out, 50, Vick at the 40, Vick at the 40, Vick lunges to the 21-yard line.
A 1-3 start wasn't ideal, but between weeks 6 and 13, the Falcons registered 7 wins and 1 tie, helping them finish with a 9-6-1 record. Vick had given them their first winning season in 4 years and put on an absolute show while doing it. The electrifying quarterback passed for 1,936 yards and 16 touchdowns, adding 777 yards and 8 more scores on the ground. He had back-to-back games with 91 rushing yards to help the Falcons defeat the Carolina Panthers and the New Orleans Saints.
From the shotgun, running it. He's got the first down and more. Michael Vick takes off into the end zone for the Atlanta Falcons touchdown.
Before setting an NFL record with 173 rushing yards against Minnesota in Week 13. At the time, that was the most rushing yards for a quarterback in a single game in NFL history. And in doing so, it helped produce a crucial overtime win that the Falcons needed. Vick's 46-yard rushing touchdown was something that had everybody with their jaws on the floor.
2nd and 8, off the play fake, has some running room, inside the 30, inside the 20, Vick into the end zone, Falcons win in overtime, a 46-yard touchdown run.
I mean, Vick was an absolute hero in Atlanta, and he became even more popular when he broke another record in January. The Falcons' 9-win season just about got them into the playoffs, setting up a wildcard round clash against the heavily favored Green Bay Packers. And I mean, they were huge underdogs. The Falcons had their way with the Packers though.
Still to this day, sometimes I have dreams. I thought I had enough to, kind of yank the back of his head to pull him towards me out of bounds.
Roger Villa has control of it. He has everything. Michael Vick just makes it, straightens out his face, mask, gets his helmet back on right, and then goes back the other way.
Vick threw for a touchdown and ran for 64 yards on 10 carries, easing Atlanta to a 27-7 win. In doing so, Vick became the youngest player in NFL history to win a playoff game, adding another incredible feat to a brilliant season. At At that time, Michael Vick had absolutely taken the league by storm. He was the new hero in Atlanta, a Pro Bowler in his first year as a starter, and the player selected to be on the new cover of the next Madden game. And honestly, it just can't be underestimated the impact he had on the game as his first year as a starter. Unfortunately though, he did not get the opportunity to back it up 1 year later. A broken leg in the preseason would sideline him for the first 11 games, rendering it a lost season for Atlanta. This meant that the fans had to wait until 2004 to start dreaming of more playoff action, and I mean, boy did the Falcons deliver. With Vick back under center, the Falcons stormed to an 11-5 record in 2004. Vick passed for 2,313 yards and 14 touchdowns, also posting a career-high 902 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. Hell, against the Broncos, Vick became the first quarterback to pass for over 250 yards and rush for another 100 as the Falcons stuck up 41 points on their opponents. Atlanta led the league in rushing with 172 yards per game, proving too good for most of the league as they won their first division title since 1998. And due to that division title, they benefited from a first-round bye in the playoffs before a quarterback postseason record 119 rushing yards from Michael Vick helped the Falcons dispatch the St. Louis Rams by 47 points to 17. Vick also threw 2 touchdowns in the game as Atlanta completely blew out their opponents. Unfortunately for Atlanta, any dreams of a Super Bowl were dashed 1 week later by the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. It was another devastating playoff loss, but 2 playoff appearances and 2 Pro Bowls in Vick's 2 healthy seasons as a starter meant the future was bright. He improved statistically over the next 2 years, culminating in a brilliant season in 2006, during which he passed for 2,474 yards and 20 touchdowns, whilst also surpassing the 1,000 yard mark as a rusher. This made him the first quarterback in the history of the NFL to do so, adding to his long list of broken records. Sadly though, there were no playoff appearances in the 2005 and 2006 seasons, and in 2007, Falcon fans received even worse news.
Federal authorities have shut down one of the biggest dogfighting rings in U.S. history.
Former NFL star Michael Vick has pleaded guilty to a state dogfighting charge in Virginia.
Michael Vick pled guilty for his role in a dogfighting ring, and as part of the deal, the prosecutor will recommend the judge sentence him to 12 to 18 months behind bars.
Just 1 month before the season was due to start, Michael Vick pled guilty to federal charges of organizing dogfighting. It was an inexplicable situation for Vick to find himself in. A quarterback who had the world at his fingertips gave it all away for the sake of engaging in crime and animal cruelty. It was just pure heartbreak for Falcons fans. He was improving year after year. Hell, for sure they were going to have some sort of playoff success with him as a quarterback, and maybe even Super Bowls in the future. But now, after all of these allegations came out, it was really just tough to see Atlanta ever getting that chance to go on a Super Bowl run. For Vick himself, his skill set was so unique that he had already changed the way that people viewed the quarterback position. He was on track to put together one of the greatest careers as a quarterback in NFL history, changing the game and placing himself as a top 5 player as a quarterback. Instead, Vick would be trading in the gridiron for a jail cell, creating one of the ultimate sporting what-if situations. Vick served 18 months in prison, sacrificing 2 years of his career and tens of millions of dollars. Roger Goodell cited that Vick's conduct, and I quote, was not only illegal, but was also cruel and reprehensible. The man who was the face of the NFL was now public enemy number 1, and he faced an almighty challenge to get back into the league. Thankfully for Vick, and honestly to the disgust of many of the fans who just couldn't stand the idea of an animal abuser being allowed to come back to the NFL, Philadelphia was his last lifeline.
It was a mess. We understood. There was no saying, well, we don't get it. No, we got it. We know what he did. I felt like if you took a survey, it'd probably be a 50-50. The 50% that were against it were going to be loud. And then there were going to be 50% of people that sat there and go, hey, listen, the kid kid deserves a second chance, and let's see what he does with it.
After his release from prison and prior to the 2009 season, Vick signed a one-year deal with the Eagles, and he was merely a backup to Donovan McNabb. But after McNabb was traded in 2010, Vick remained a backup to Kevin Kolb now. That was until a concussion to Kolb in the early stages of the 2010 season meant that Vick once again found himself back on the field, and this time he made sure there was no going back. He made an immediate impact on the field and threw for a career-high 3,018 yards despite only starting 12 games. He threw for 21 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions, also adding 676 yards as a rusher and 9 touchdowns on the ground. Just like the career start in Atlanta, Vick led the Eagles to the playoffs in his first year as a starter, but they unfortunately didn't make it out of the wildcard round. Honestly, the parallels between Vick's starting career in Atlanta and the start to his career in Philadelphia were just kind of crazy to see. But seeing his success as an Eagle was just clear to see what he had thrown away while he was engaging in all this criminal activity. Like, if he doesn't engage in all of that criminal activity, who knows what his career could have turned into? Could he have won a Super Bowl? Would he be still in Atlanta? Who knows? Vick did win Comeback Player of the Year for his efforts in 2010, but this only draws attention to what more significant silverware was possible for the talented quarterback. Vick improved to throw another career high of 3,303 yards in 2011, but this would trigger the beginning of the end for him in regards to his on-field action. He could only manage 2,362 yards in a 4-win season for the Eagles in 2012, which would ultimately result in the firing of the head coach, Andy Reid. 1 year later, it was Michael Vick heading for the exit after an injury opened the door to the new recruit, Nick Foles. Foles had thrived in this starting role, relegating Vick to backup duties and ultimately just ending his career in Philadelphia. Determined to not give up on his career though, Michael Vick signed contracts with the New York Jets and Pittsburgh Steelers in 2014 and 2015, but was never able to convince either team that he was more than a low-level backup quarterback. Vick retired after the 2016 season, which he spent as a free agent for the entire year. It brought an end to a strange career that featured the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. He still holds the record for most rushing yards by a quarterback with 6,109, and his insane dual threat ability appeared to put him on a trajectory for multiple Super Bowls and a Hall of Fame career. Instead, a stint in prison forced a 3-year hiatus that derailed his career and created the ultimate what-if situation. But I want to know what you guys think. How good was Michael Vick in his prime? Is he one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the position, just based off on athleticism or whatever you may take it? Let me know down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys in the next one.